Hey guys, welcome to Walsh Weekly. So this week I am talking to Tim Wilson. This is quite an exciting episode because we're actually doing a book giveaway. Me and Tim work together and he's been generous enough to give away his book, The Straight Banana. And all the details about the giveaway are in my latest Instagram post. You can check that out on my Instagram, and you can also check it out on Tim's Instagram, which are both linked in the show notes of this podcast. I will also leave details on the book and what it's about. And basically, it is free. We can ship internationally, wherever you are. Whoever wins, the winner is basically the person that does the best comment relating to this podcast or to the book or to my 7 Sharp segment or something like that. Something to do with me and Tim's relationship, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It was quite a pleasure to get to talk to Tim again. He interviewed me on 7 Sharp probably 3-4 months ago about my scoliosis, my weightlifting, and my story sort of thing, which was quite a pleasure. I've never been on TV before, but that was quite an experience. So yeah, at this time I flipped it around and now I am interviewing Tim. So I'm asking Tim about his story and then how he got into this, how he's got to the places that he's gotten. And I think this is quite an interesting episode, especially if you're the kind of person who likes things like the news and you're trying to get on TV, you're trying to get into the media, all that kind of stuff, because it is a hard thing to get into. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode and have a good day. Please enter the competition. I really hope that you give a good comment and really, try and make it funny, try and make it interesting. We're probably just going to pick the comment that is the funniest or makes us react or laugh. So yeah, thank you guys very much for listening and have a good day.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than
Everybody
you.
has time. Stop watching Lost.
I love what I do, and that's why I'm doing what I love.
Hey guys, welcome to Walsh Weekly. This week I am here with Tim Wilson, one of the presenters on 7 Sharp. He's also an author. He's written 4 books, and he was also the previous New York correspondent of, was it One News or TVNZ or something?
Yeah, no, that's right, for TVNZ, James.
Yeah. So how did you get into this whole thing? How did this all start?
The best things always happen by accident, or often seem to be accidents at the time, and then you sort of discern maybe later.
Yeah.
You realise that maybe you're being moved to a place where you need to be.
Yeah.
So like I'd gone to New York because I was bored of New Zealand. I was 36 years old. I was washed up at work.
Yeah.
Things weren't happening for me. So I just thought, I got 2 choices here.
Yeah.
I got, let's see, I got 20 grand in the bank. I can either buy a semi-detached unit out at Waterview and buy a house, or I can spend the money and go to New York and see if I can get a job on one of the magazines I admire. I was a print journalist then, so which that magazine would be the New Yorker. So I was like, oh, what the hell? I'll just roll the dice. And of course, I didn't get a job on the New Yorker because they're very, very hard to get. But I did end up becoming or getting into TV. So I completely changed from print journalism into broadcasting, which was a real steep learning curve. And it happened by accident. The reason it happened was because I had the cell phone. I was so broke, bro. Honestly, I was stumbling from like week to week writing stuff for New Zealand. I mean, I was doing a bit of stuff for the American papers. I wrote for the New York Times, just very small bits, but basically I was working for New Zealand at a time when the New Zealand dollar was like half the American dollar. So I was really up against it. And I was so broke. I didn't have a cell phone. I couldn't get a social security number because I wasn't quite able to, and so I had someone else's cell phone, the cell phone of a more successful person, and she had done work for One News. And so what happened was a woman called Pam Corkery, who was that time the host of a late night show on TVNZ, called that cell phone expecting to find Lauren Quaintance.
Yeah.
But she got Tim Wilson because Lauren Quaintance had left New York and given me the cell phone out of pity.
Yeah.
And Pam knew me, and she said, well, look, I need someone to do a live cross in Times Square, overlooking in the Reuters studio over Times Square.
Yeah.
Basically tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. Are you into it? I was like, how much do you pay? And she told me. I was like, I'm into it. I was like, I found myself doing the thing that I never thought I'd do. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to stare at TV people, overpaid jerks, overdressed, never ask anything interesting, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly there I was, one of them.
Yeah. So then you went from just normal like writing for newspaper, right? And then you dove straight into TV.
Well, I was writing for newspapers, magazines, but mostly just newspapers and magazines, but mostly in New Zealand.
So was that one of the things that made it financially so hard, just because the conversion from that made it really difficult? And do you find that being so poor at that time made you want to succeed more? Or do you think it was just complete difficulty that didn't really have a benefit? Or
you know what, I think I know that it's sort of a lot of this podcast, your podcast, it's like, how do you succeed, and it's just like sometimes to succeed you've just got to fail. And so I didn't actually, I did go to the States wanting to quote unquote succeed, but then I failed so colossally that that something else had to happen in a way. I suppose I would just, you always take every job that's offered to you. You throw yourself at it. You do your very best, and something will come of it. So, in the case of getting into TV, it was really just, as I said, accidental. What I was getting to though was when I was broke, and at that time, I've never been happier in a sense, because no, that's not true. I'm happy right now. I'm much more happy right now. But my wife's actually standing in the corner, rolling her eyes at me, going, "Oh, really? You've never been happier?" And I've got my lovely sons playing just in the next room. So what I meant was, I actually to be broke, I think, frees you from certain constraints. So you have to get quite cunning. People will invite you out to dinner. You say, "Oh, I'm a bit busy, quote unquote broke." So I'll just show up after dinner, after everyone's had a few drinks, and then they're buying drinks, and they'll buy drinks, and you won't have to buy that many drinks, and all of that stuff. You sort of get so when I guess what I'm saying is, there's a time, if you want to get somewhere, there'll be a time when you won't be getting there, and you won't even see like you're getting anywhere. But enjoy that time. Just like relish every day for what it offers you. And I don't know. I mean, I can't. I'd like to say, well, I planned for this and it all worked out. I didn't plan for this at all. And I think, when people are starting out, they think, okay, what's my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? I'm not convinced that that hasn't worked for me. Let's put it that way. It might work for a different personality.
In a way, like, it sort of looks like you've just sort of gone all in this direction, and you haven't really given yourself like, I guess,
any other option, right?
There's no, you're not wearing like floaties or anything. You just dive straight in. No. Do you find that sort of forced you into it, and then like you had no other option, or?
Well, it did. I mean, it did in a way, because I was, I guess I didn't know what. I suppose the word time, and maybe I'm romanticizing that time of being broke and desperate in retrospect, but I was getting some. I was doing stuff for Newsweek.com. Which was, at the time, it was, Newsweek was one of the big magazines. It was like the opposite of Time magazine, which I used to read as a kid growing up in New Plymouth in the 70s, and that was like amazing. So to be working even for the website of that, and they were paying me, which was incredible. But it still quite wasn't, it wasn't working out. And lots of things weren't working out. I suppose so. If you're going to get your game on, I guess you've just got to. You do have to be persistent. In some way, I think I was sort of blessed. It just sort of something happened to me that put me on a different path. But I remember there was a guy who was like the head of like GQ, all of these big magazines, and somehow I got his email, and I wrote him an email, and he called me. I was walking through Union Square, and he said, "Hi, it's Ron Gallotta. You got 3 minutes."
Oh my!
Pitched me.
What'd you do?
I had nothing. I was like, oh, well, I think I'll be quite, I did that whole Kiwi thing.
Oh, yeah.
Da-da-da-da. He's like, I'll see you later. Boom. I don't think he got 3 minutes.
So he just went straight savage, and sort of just like, he gave you that opportunity, and then it was like hard to capitalize on that.
Well, what happened was it just caught me by surprise. But I'm sure he just thought, you know what, I'll give the schmuck a chance. I'll see, I'll see if he can do it. If he can sell me in 3 minutes, we're off to the races. I had nothing. So, and I've been in situations like that before. So, there's just there are things that work out and things that don't work out.
Yeah.
And you just can't, you can't worry too much about the things that don't work out. And when things do work out, just try and work them as well as you can.
How do you go from like doing everything sort of just for free and sort of just like trying to get your foot in the door? How do you get your foot in the door?
I never do anything for free.
Never.
Like, no, I guess, but that's because I guess I've been around for a while.
Yeah.
And so to me, I mean, I can see when you're starting out, you'll do stuff for free. But then the question is, okay, how much is this worth? Now, if I've been valuing this $0, how am I going to convince someone that it's obviously if you do good stuff, then you'll get an offer, something will happen.
Yeah.
But I never worked for the New York Times for free, never worked for Newsweek.com for free because it's just you need to get paid for that. Same for TVNZ. Even when I sucked, I wasn't great. I was okay at talking, as you can probably hear. I could talk my way out of a paper bag. But in terms of actual TV, like the logistics of TV, knew nothing about it. But I was still getting paid because because they'd taken a bet on me. And sometimes you've got the thing to do is to persuade an organization, a person, to take a bet on you. Yeah. And sometimes the bet will pay off for both of you. Sometimes it won't pay off for one of you. Yeah. Sometimes neither of you will pay off, and you'll be glad to see the back of each other.
Yeah. Do you find that? How do you go about sort of getting them to take that bet or making because when I approach people with this podcast, like people that are high up there, like with you, I already knew you, so I had that connection. I was trying to get in that door.
You took me home. I mean, you took me home, bro. So I owe you one.
So how, when it comes to finding, when there's you don't know how to get into that door, how do you open the door?
I think one way to do it. I mean, if you're approaching people who, are significant figures in their fields, and you want some maybe some time with them, you want some wisdom from them, you may want something from them. It's really good to know their story.
Yeah.
And so I think praising someone is a really good way to get their interest.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have an offer that you probably think, well, okay, here's an offer that is depending on what you're offering them. Make your offer a bit different to what everyone else is offering. Yeah. Because then they'll think, well, this is not this person number 24 who's trying to sell me the same stuff.
Yeah.
This is someone who's got something slightly different, and it's intriguing. And make it really easy for people to say yes to you. I think that's the thing. So it could be, I don't know what situation you've got in mind, but it's and maybe you could suggest something, but in that sense, it's like you just have to think what they want, or would work for them, but also be yourself.
Yeah. So sort of making so you're giving value to them and showing them that you're not just another person pitching out to 50 people with the same message, or sort of just pitching out everyone and I mean, it's like what's the benefit? What's the benefit for me in this? How can you may see something that they're doing that they don't. They might have a charity that they're working with that they can get an opportunity to talk about, or whatever. I mean, it's it depends on the person. So I guess the thing is to do your homework. Yeah.
Do your homework and make it something that is beneficial to them, and then it doesn't feel like such a sell.
And when it comes to doing that, because you're sort of in some ways with that, like when I'm pitching people, I'm trying to show them that I'm different. I'm trying to show them that I'm unique and I actually care about this opportunity. In a way, in some ways, I'm creating things that might not necessarily be there. Like I might not really be able to bring much value to them, but I know because with your Take Me Home segment and things like that, you take a story that's just a normal everyday story and then you turn it into something amazing. How do you go and do that? How do you take something that's just normal and everyday and then turn it into this cool thing that everyone actually is interested and wants to look at?
Well, I think I don't believe that anyone. I really do believe what I said to you when I met you at Birkenhead, and it's like I believe everyone has a story. Yeah. I want to hear your story. Yeah. Will you take me home? And it's like, most people turn me down, but people know. I guess I have the benefit that I've been doing this segment now for like about maybe 4 or 5 years. So people, people will walk past me on the street and they say, "Oh, I'm not taking you home," and they smile, and so it's like they sort of already know a little bit about me.
Yeah.
So there is that. Now, how do you? I think maybe James, if we talked about something specific, it would be, is it just in the? I mean, in a way, I guess we're talking about storytelling, eh?
Yeah. So how do you go about telling a good story, even when I spoke to this guy recently. He turns everyday things into a story. How do you personally do that when you turn just a normal everyday thing and make it interesting and make it into a story?
Okay. Well, I think if we think about your your story, it's like. I had this condition, scoliosis. I had surgery to correct it. I had to sit still for a long period of time in my early teens, and then I started to run. That's basically your story, right? That's a beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so you've got the scoliosis, you've got the surgery and sitting still, and then you've got the running. So beginning, middle, and end. So I think there's got to be, there's got to have those 3 beats. It's got to have a question at the beginning, which is like your health and your well-being, and from that, which was if you hadn't have had that operation in another country, you would have been crippled. But here you are running, and you're at the gym, and you're amazingly healthy. So there's that. The question is, well, what will happen to James? Yeah. Turns out he ended up running, and so we didn't actually show the running bit until right at the end, if you remember, in the piece we did on you, and that was, I think, really great, because first you'd seen we had some images of your spine and images of you as a kid, and so we were able to sort of show you, get people to sort of see that, put a face to the story as well, and the way you told it was very good too. So that always helps. So it's you format it in a certain way that shows that sort of. Well, all stories. Yeah, all stories have beginnings, middles, and ends. Yeah. Right. The Greek recipe for drama is that you set up a dilemma, you make it worse, then you resolve it.
So is that the general thing that you follow with anything you're sort of saying? Like if you're presenting on just a normal thing that's happening, I don't know any normal stories.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, I mean, say for example, and I do presenting occasionally, but mostly I'm a reporter, so that's mostly the gig. I think for example, I did a story yesterday on a woman who called herself a body architect. Now, what the hell is that? Actually, she's an artist. Yeah. But she's sort of the intersection of art and technology, and it's sort of kooky and it's curly whirly. And the thing was, I guess I structured the story around what, you have to be where, again, I was talking about where you say if you're pitching to someone, if you're approaching someone, if you want something out of someone, you've got to know where they live. So when I think of the viewers, the TV's on, mum and dad are in the corner, whatever, they might have just had a conversation about something, and they look over and they hear the word body architect, and the first thing they'll say is, what the hell is that? Yeah. So that's basically what the story was about. What the hell is a body architect? Yeah. And so you sort of got to the point where, so it's like, she's a body architect. This is some of the stuff she's done. She's worked with the pop star Robin. She created the swallowable perfume. She comes from Melbourne. She was like just an ordinary kid, but her life's a bit weird now. Here's what she's doing. She's a bit of an artist, really. Again, you've got 1, 2, 3. And sort of like the thing, well, are you a weirdo? No, I'm not. I'm just someone with I'm a normal person with very unusual interests. Yeah. And so that's, again, it's just, I guess the thing is, again, knowing where the audience is. Well, so you always have an audience in some way when you're, say, if you're pitching, if you're trying to actually, to some extent, I don't really, when I write books, I tend to just please myself, which is probably self-indulgent. You put so much of your life into a book that you want to please yourself. But it's certainly about TV. Certainly about radio, because I do radio with News Talk ZB. I do talkback. You're always thinking about what's going to reach out of that machine, that apparatus. Now, it might be a book, it might be the TV, it might be the radio, and grab people. So you've got to think about about that and what's going to grab people, dilemmas, the stuff of life. Your story was really inspirational. So inspiring stories grab people, that kind of thing.
So you sort of look at what they're feeling and what their emotions could be and how they might see this thing.
All humans need the same thing. I think we need to know that. I think fundamentally we need to know that our lives are meaningful. Yeah. And stories have to, when they succeed, they have to be able to do that. They have to convey the meaningfulness that we all feel in our lives to a complete stranger. So that often happens in the details. It happens in the way that you in the way that you tell that story. But you always have, and I suppose that's not true when I say I please myself. I have a very specific readership in mind, and that's not the same for every book. So, my first book was probably a more general. My first book was a book about the rapture, and it was written from the point of view of a middle-aged Christian woman living in the United States. Yeah, and so that would probably have quite general appeal. My last book was highly unusual in the sense that there are matrices in it. There's a questionnaire in it. There's bits of graphics. There's it's just like, it's not a mainstream book, but what the hell? I still I felt very satisfied to write it, and I felt that it really made an impact on those people who read it.
Do you think there's a reason you, like when you're doing a story like Take Me Home, you're pitching to general people that would be listening, but when you're writing a book, why do you think you create it, or you sort of make it in a different way, more for yourself? Why do you think you do that? Or
I think it's just I have the luck. Maybe it's just like I think. Well, what if I think of my audience? Well, I think my audience is not just people who will read it today, but people who will read it in 20 years' time. Yeah, and see it as sometimes those sorts of books, they can have limited readership in their time. Now, I think history will tell me whether I was right or wrong. Yeah, but I guess your question though is, well, if you're so interested in general audiences for for the work you do in TV, why aren't you as seem as interested in general audiences for your books? I suppose in a way I wanted to. I mean, I'm a big fan of pushing the envelope a bit as well. So I just wanted to write the kind of books that people would. The unexpected would happen. Yeah. And so sometimes the unexpected it's sort of like, do you want a lot of people to fall a little bit in love with what you've got, or do you want a few people to really fall in love? And so I guess that was the choice I made. At the moment, the book I'm writing is a lot more. There are no tricks in it, but it's more sort of straight down the line. But that's because I felt I'd reached the end of whatever experimentation I was trying to do with the other one.
How do you go about writing a book? Because I thought about making like a guide on how to be fit with scoliosis or something like that. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think it's the right time to start it now for one. But how do you go about doing that whole process of thinking of an idea and then turning it into pages?
Okay. So what you do is you sit down, you open up your computer, and you start tapping keys, James.
Do you just start? No plan?
No, you have plans in your head. I mean, I think you have to hash it out in your head. You have to decide. You have to know what kind of book you're writing. You have to know what the structure is. Yeah. Beginning, middle, end. Again, you have to know who your audience is. So in this case, probably my audience is always I write literary novels, so people who have a certain understanding of literature, but this one will be more general. So that's who the audience is. This book also will be more straightforward, so there won't be as many tricks in it. Yeah. So the thing is, and so it's got to have a character or personality around it as well. Yeah. So I think that's you let something of yourself or an aspect of yourself into the book that will help you decide just what. I mean, maybe the book you'll do on scoliosis will be an inspirational book. Maybe there'll be downbeat parts. But it'll still be a reflection of who, James Walsham, who you are, and or a pumped up version of your personality. Yeah.
How do you go about putting your personality into it? Because with a lot of the things, like when I was doing blogging a lot, I would find it hard to make it not just so binary and so blah blah blah. This is how you do this. Blah blah blah.
I did this. Do that. Yeah. I think if you write how you speak, that's usually the advice. What read a lot. So read a lot. You can't write without reading.
Yeah.
So read, if you want to write a book about how you transformed your life, having had scoliosis and those and I know that when I took you home, I saw those sorts of books in your room. Read more of them, because you'll learn lessons from how the masters do it. Like I read. I didn't get my first book published until I was 42. No, wait, what was it? 2010. 2010. So let's see. I was 45.
Yeah.
So that was and I'd always dreamed about writing a book.
Yeah. How old were you when you first thought that writing a book would be in your horizon?
I wrote a book when I was 28.
Really?
Yep.
But did it just not get published, not get picked
up? It did
get
get published. It got turned down by every publisher in New Zealand.
Oh, how do you deal with that, like rejection? Do you find it was positive in the long term, or how did you deal with that?
Well, you just, I thought, well, what I'd probably have to do is start, I just have to start from scratch and learn how to write properly. So I started writing short stories.
Yeah.
And so I got those published in little magazines, and that's how, that's how I probably learned my craft that way.
Yeah. So
probably I wasn't ready to have a book published.
Yeah.
At the time. So how do you deal with that rejection? Sometimes it's a message that says, feedback's always a gift, which is like, no, this is useless. Try harder.
Yeah. So how do you know when it's like, this is actually useless, or it's just people? Because with a lot of people, they think their thing is amazing, but a lot of it's usually trash. How do they know when it's like, when you know that you have something that is actually really good, and everyone else is rejecting it? Do you think that it's definitely time to just let it go, or?
Well, I think, if you fail, what did I do? I mean, I think I failed at 5 or 6 publishers. So if every publisher in New Zealand turns you down, you probably got to let it go, right? But if you find, I think, you could, if you like, try and do something. You could self-publish if you want and use, go down that road. But then you've got to face distribution. You've got all sorts of other, other hurdles that you have to get over. Sure, you publish it, but who's going to read it? Yeah.
So it's sort of, I don't want to take too much more of your time, because I want to stick to the sort of time frame. So if I could ask you one more question, what would be your last piece of advice for someone looking to get into your sort of profession, a creative individual who goes and presents on TV or does anything sort of creative like that? How would you recommend they go about starting, or what would the best thing they could do be?
Well, what I do is changing. So if they have as many technical skills as possible, be able to shoot, cut, edit, all of that stuff, then that's going to be a great advantage to them. They should read as much as they can. They should disagree with people as much as they can, because because to think like everyone else means that you'll just be part of the crowd. If you want to stand out, why would you do that?
So you sort of make yourself very unique and make yourself very opinionated.
Well, I think maybe I've always been an opinionated person.
Yeah.
And I generally haven't liked going along with the crowd. So I think maybe, you have to just be aware that if you function in an organization, you're going to have to you will have to play by the rules in some way.
Yeah.
But when you're, it's like, there will be, if you're trying to get into TV, there's a line of people still who want to get into TV, even though, even though the dynamics of TV is changing. So how do you make yourself different? Well, there's one person who ended up coming through TVNZ, and the guy had long hair, and that got everyone's attention, because most of the people who are in TV have, they end up dressing very conservatively. Now, whether he could pay off that dividend, whether he had the talent, I don't know. But you have to have something that's different about you, that's going to make people pay attention to you, because there's a line of schmucks around the block who want what you want.
Yeah. So you have to differentiate yourself and make yourself not just same as when pitching people, like for the podcast, or pitching people for opportunities. Show that you actually are different and not just another clone of the next guy. Just there's something different about you, and you are. I mean, everyone is different. Everyone's got something. I'm sure of it. I'm convinced of it. I know it. I have a Christian faith, and I believe that God made us to do something. We're all instruments, but we've just got to find the tune. Yeah. So we just have to find what our thing is. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Find what your thing is, and then double and triple down on it. And if no one likes it, go and do something else. Yeah. Do you think that's what you've done? Doubled and tripled down on your strengths? Well, I suppose they've just developed over time. Yeah. So
But at some point, I might have to go and do something else. In which
Yeah.
case, I'll do it. But I started out. I went from university. I went on the dole because I wanted to write. To write a long poem.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything. Ended up driving a taxi. From driving a taxi, I ended up becoming a journalist because I won a writing competition.
Yeah.
So
long journey and long down windy paths, all completely.
Yeah.
It's quite a strange journey, and I didn't realize the places that you've went. Like I thought it would be like a linear, like I worked at TV
It's not.
and then
Yeah, no,
New
it's
York,
not.
then this and then
Yeah.
that and then that. It's really cool.
I
And
really think, yeah.
I'm glad you gave me your time to so I can learn from your experience and actually understand, because I know you listened to my story and understood my story. Now I guess I'm foot's on the other shoe, or shoes on the other foot.
She's on the other foot. Exactly. Well, it's been a pleasure, James, and never underestimate the power of failure.
Yeah, too right. Sweet as. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thanks, bro. Nice work.
Sweet
Great
as.
question.
Thank you very much. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you have already entered the competition on my Instagram. There will also be a post on Tim's Instagram. They're both linked in the show notes of this podcast, and I really highly recommend you check that out. If the sort of best comment or the best comment wins a free book, no matter where you're based in the world, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'd love it if you check out the links in the show notes. It'll be my Instagram, Tim's Instagram, Tim's other social media, possibly a link to the 7 Sharp story that Tim did with me. So yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. I would love it if you would leave a review, and have a good day.